Hello, welcome to the channel. This will probably just be a long form Factorio Seablock playthrough documenting my learning experience. Um, yeah, so I've kept basically everything normal. The only change I made to the starting settings are increasing the area size, and let's get into it. So I have quite a few mods for some ease of use, starting with, of course, the Seablock mod pack. Um, the most obvious otherwise is the Tiny Start mod, which gives me some construction robots to start with, which makes the early game a lot less tedious. So on Seablock, you start with a few materials and just have to start building. This mod has some pretty complicated chemistry and other things, but we'll get to all of that later. So I'll probably be doing these videos along the lines of 1 hour at a time. Alright, now let's get our wind turbines down. I have some experience with Seablock, but I've never finished it. And already, these construction robots are doing wonders for how easy everything is. They make placing down everything so simple. Still have a few more. Right? Well, let's let the bots finish placing. And two more. Right, so with all of those wind turbines down, we are getting a constant, well, I guess I can't really see yet. Oh, one more. But these wind turbines just provide a little bit of energy at all times. Alright, and so for our first research, we just have to crush steertite. And for the start, when things are relatively simple, I'm sure I'll be able to go through them much faster. But here's steertite. So to get that, we need steertite ore. And to get steertite ore, we need mineral water. Mineral water is from, let's see, crushed slag. So let's just make everything. All the materials that you start with are for crafting everything you need. And these recipes are new to me, because this Tiny Start mod, this will be the first time I'm actually using it. But already it is so convenient. Right, so with these electrolyzers, we can start getting some slag. And let's set up my hotkeys. Right, so inputting water into these electrolyzers, we can get slag and a few chemicals. For right now, we don't have a use for the hydrogen or the oxygen, so we'll just be venting them with these flare stacks. So aside from the quick start mod and the Seablock pack, I have plenty of quality of life stuff, like within the Bob's Angels is the like the adjustable inserters, and those make things extremely convenient to build more complex designs with. I also have even distribution, which we'll see shortly when we start getting into furnaces. Alright, and now once we get some power over here, we can start slag production. Um, the the start here is going to be quite slow, and there's no going around that. Well, it seems like I need more water, and I sort of pigeonholed myself. All right. So from there, so now any slag that we get, we can put in here, and we can forage for driftwood infinitely, which is going to be our only fuel source for a little while. But with the mineralized water, we'll put that into this crystallizer and start getting some basic ores. This is definitely a new fun experience for me, I guess. I have next to no experience with commentary of any kind, so I'm sure as the series goes on, if I continue it, things will start to improve. But I'll just try to be as vocal as I can about what I'm doing and all the different crafting and such. And it's going to be very, very slow. I'll probably aim for hour-long videos or so, and maybe for now they'll be efficient, and in the future there'll be a lot of planning and possibly some AFK time. But as long as I keep making a little bit of progress, don't get overwhelmed by any big crafting chains, then I'll be just fine. Alright, we have a few ores now. Oops, I forgot a step. Our objective is to crush the ores before anything else. And there we go. Crushed steatite. That unlocks the plates. We can put these crushed ores into furnaces, which I guess I used up to craft the actual the crushers. Yeah, these furnaces, I'm gonna give just a little bit of space because I know what comes. This hand feeding is certainly annoying, but we'll move past it soon enough. Hopefully automation will come soon. Sure will. Alright, so let's see. Once we get a little bit of copper, then we'll be able to make one of these basic circuits. Stop. I don't want to put bricks. I also have a queue to front crafting mod, which I have been neglecting to use, but now I can have some wood constantly going as my last crafting, and then I can mix things in. Let's collect more slag and more ores. And there we go, our first circuit board. Next, our objective is to build a lab, which is not too hard. Something I'm always a little lost about in this mod is I tend to make far too many materials at any given stage. I should be making the absolute bare minimum for where we're at. This mod is a picker dollies mod. It allows me to just move items one by one. Alright, and there we go. Now we have science. Pretty much all I can do right now is handcrafting science. But if I can get some belts going, automating everything will make this much simpler. I won't be able to, I won't have to hand feed all of these resources anymore. Since I haven't used this mod, I'm not sure. The construction area seems quite big for these early construction mods. Alright, and now it should be pretty easy if I don't break the water. There should be a lot less manual work I have to do before I can get my resources going. Let's do a few more chests to put our iron and copper in. I wonder if there's a way to turn off these notifications. That telling me that I don't have the correct items in my inventory. Right, maybe a few extra. A few extra of those will help. Let's see. Now that I can make an extra pump, I think I'll be moving this around a little bit. Yeah, as you can see, we're getting like minutes per plate instead of plates per minute as it normally goes in Factorio. And that's just how this mod pack is. It's slow, it starts slow, and it normally stays slow as well. But we'll make some good progress. Now that I have some copper, I will be able to start. Oh, oops. Haven't been doing my crafting chains perfectly correct. And preemptively, I'm going to add another crusher to feed the mineralized water. Although, I'm not sure if we quite have the things we need for that. Once we unlock underground belts, it'll be much easier to get this over. Until then, we can just plan for it. And getting a little bit of research going will be good, but we still need quite a few more before we get our first unlock from the real science, that is. It's the early unlocks, like telling you to crush steertite, are very nice for letting you progress. Otherwise, it's just scrambling through the factory planner or the recipe browser, trying to figure out what you're doing. And this mod pack is sort of fun like that. It always feels like a puzzle about how to do things. Hopefully later on, near trains, which aren't for quite a while, we get trains around the middle of green science, which will take a lot of production before we can get there. Hopefully things will be more solved. I can just throw things on trains and have them deal with it like that. Less of a balancing issue. Something I often fail to do well in this mod is to utilize the byproducts that I am given. For example, crushing the ores gives you crushed stone back, which can be turned back into more mineralized water for more ore. So hopefully in the future I will be doing a better job of using everything. And I think that having that as a goal, have as many systems that use all of their byproducts and don't back up, would be fun. And of course, there are ways, just like the flare stacks, there's ways to get rid of everything, but it's more efficient if you reuse things. Alright, to speed up this research, I think I'll be building another lab. Right, and there we go. Now I can make underground belts, which will hopefully help me to speed this up a bit. Oh, and there are certainly ways I could have done that before, but I'm stubborn. Alright. And next, I'm sure long inserters, or I guess steam power is more useful to start with. I'm not sure how long it'll take for us to get out of the hand feeding stage, but hopefully I can ration my iron out until I get to slightly faster production. What I'll be going for is probably slag 1, and that'll allow me to use slag in a different way and do things quite a bit more efficiently. Something else I normally don't use are the lamps, and having a brightly lit factory is probably a much better viewing experience, so hopefully that as well will be something I can do better. Right, that just about doubles our mineral water rate, hopefully. The electrolyzers can keep up, and it seems like they can't. I see here we consume 2 slag a second, but only make 1. So some more electrolyzers might be in order soon. And to do that early, I think I'll move the flare stacks to the bottom, since I plan on moving upwards to add extras. let's see. I am by no means a Factorio master. There's going to be tons of inefficiencies, and all around it's hopefully going to be a big learning experience for me to improve. I can already tell that our electrolyzers aren't producing fast enough, so let's build a few more. I can just copy the bottom 4, and I'll use that shortly after I place down more landfill. And wow, these construction bots are so useful. It makes so much of the early game less of a headache. And next up is the automation, which is going to be kind of the core of the whole factory. Alright, this should improve our mineral production even more. It might be prudent for me to install some kind of time manipulation mod just for these lazy moments. But let's see, maybe we can just look ahead. I think getting washing and landfill will be a very important next step. We have a very limited amount of land space, and getting washing up is gonna let us create more far faster than we could right now. Yeah, it is. This is, like I said earlier, sort of a first commentary, and maybe it's too meta to be talking about that, but it is quite, quite scary and very unusual for me too. Right, awesome. Now that we have automation, I can transition into electric ore crushers rather than fueled ones, which will make my micromanaging of them quite a lot simpler. I don't have to constantly be adding more fuel and such. Alright, and now everything is back to normal, just with electric. And already we are low on power. the wood that we have is probably not going to work very well for power generation. We're producing it at such a slow speed just by handcrafting that some basic algae processing to make wood instead of just crafting it could be a lot faster. Maybe I should pivot because of that over to power, and we do some power generation before we get washing up, because I still have a fair bit of landfill. Electrolyzers are a majority of the electricity that we're using. Alright, we don't have algae quite ready yet, but this will be a good foray into the factory planner. So I know that one boiler produces 3,600 steam per minute, no, per second, no, per minute. And so I am looking towards that for power. Once we get wood processing 2, we'll be able to do charcoal production, and that is what I'm looking to use for some early electricity. So to produce that, we're going to make cellulose fiber from green algae, and it's not going to be very efficient. So maybe we will scratch this. But as you can see, with a future recipe, green algae 2, which is not too far away, we're going to be able to make lots of steam with just one of these algae machines. And that will probably be one of the earliest examples into what this mod is really about, the byproducts. That sort of, the algae 2 processing requires charcoal to start, and the output material is also charcoal. So it takes a little bit of finagling to both make, like output the ingredient and supply it. But to start with, we can just plug our algae farm in to one of our existing water sources, and now green and brown algae are going to start to be produced. So I'm going to place these in a chest. Maybe doing it on the bottom would be better because power poles can reach there. But these will now start getting put in these chests. And with some assemblers, I can begin turning these into some of the wood products that we need for power. Starting with cellulose, and from cellulose we go straight into something we unlock in the wood processing research. So we're not quite there. keep messing up my crafting orders. Yeah, this is not too bad of a start. We're making a little bit of progress. In 30 more minutes, we'll see how much farther we've gotten before I end this first episode. But yeah, I'm very excited to catalog this playthrough, as I've had some burnout with this mod in the past, and so I've never finished it, even if I've made a sizable dent. But getting to the end is really kind of what I would like to do, as I've seen it looks quite challenging, and it's probably very fun. If you look at the very last researches, we're talking hundreds of thousands of science packs before we can win the game, in quotes. The goal is winning, of course, but in a game like Factorio, especially in a complicated mod pack, just making progress towards anything really is really important. If I can knock out just one step of anything in each of these videos, whether that's like more power production or I improve my iron and copper production somehow, then I will be more than happy. And hopefully, how much science do we need for wood processing? Quite a bit more. But our algae is starting to produce. It's nice that we're allowing it to sort of back up now. I think going straight for improved algae processing would be smart. That's going to give us a much more stable source of power, even though power is going to be such a huge problem for a majority of the playtime in this mod. Alright, the wood processing just about finished. And so now that lets me create wood pellets and wood bricks. Then I can throw these wood bricks into a furnace, and it'll both power the furnace on its own, because the wood bricks are fuel, and produce charcoal. I can put the charcoal straight into a boiler. We need water for this, so even though it might be cheaper to just pull water from the pumps I have already, this is a lot easier, right? And so we just got our washing plants, and so after this power is up and running, that will be the next thing I set up. And this power is probably going to be very inconsistent, but until we get improved algae processing, it should do a lot of good towards increasing the speed of our factory. And just like that, we have enough power for now. And once we get improved algae processing, I'll be tearing down everything I built for the power in lieu of something slightly better. There is certainly a lot of waiting around at the start of this mod pack, so there will probably be quite a lot of cuts while I wait for researches or more resources, but Until then, we can start setting up our washing plants. So I know ahead of time that I will need 5 of those. But until we get landfill, it's not too useful. But I think that algae processing is much more important than landfill for now. Oops. Alright, let's actually get the washing plants crafting instead of science. Science is important, but it's not very fun to watch me do nothing but handcrafting. I just sit still while my character does whatever. But yeah, before long, we will have a new process going up, which is going to be very useful for us. And since we're running a little bit low on our landfill, I'm going to be very sparing. Make sure that everything fits before I just throw it all down willy-nilly. Alright, and there's our first washing plant. So what these do is a chain of crafting that starts out with ocean water and comes out as saline water. And each step in the middle produces mud. And mud is our useful product here for now, because it allows us to produce landfill in a much, much higher quality, or quantity that is. I think we'll just barely be able to fit all of these in with the landfill we have remaining. So starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that I already put in. These all take water, and the first in the chain takes mud water from this seafloor pump, and then each next one, like the first one outputs the liquid that is needed for the second step, and so on until the fifth. The fifth outputs saline water, and we don't have much of a use for that, so it's just going to get clarified. Clarifiers are the liquid version of the flare stacks. They just delete any liquids. Right, let's get a pump and some pipes down. And we need just a few more pieces of landfill at the top, because in addition to each of the liquids that these machines output, they also have mud. And like I said, mud is what makes our landfill. I'm just having a little bit of trouble with space. I didn't quite leave enough. But that's alright, we can just move everything up 1, and our bots will do that for us too. So I can just cut this and move it up 1, and it'll get done shortly. And I am just constantly in awe of how useful these pots are. What they just did just made things so much easier. Alright, it looks like we have one of these rotated incorrectly. Okay, that's better. So now each of these has the water it needs. Once we get power, they'll start producing the mud. let's just put a small extra piece of land here for an assembler. And once we get the landfill, we can start producing, once we get the landfill research, that is, we can start producing all of our landfill. So yeah, as you can see, as these fill up, they just move on to the next. And in the first step, an extra gas is also created, and it will be important, but just not now. And we don't want it to clog up our resource chains, so we're just going to vent it. Just a few more. I think since it's 50, we should need about 15 or 16 more sciences, and then 10 more for our landfill. And wow, I don't want to do the math, but to me it seems a lot like these numbers don't quite add up. Up to 4 megawatts. I'm not sure where all of the power drain is coming from. But that's alright. We will have better solutions for it in the future. Alright, now that we're a lot closer to the next algae, we can take a little bit of a closer look at the factory planner. And so with this, we can take a product that we want to produce a certain amount of and look at everything that we're going to need to get there. So all of these machine numbers are 1 or less than 1, so it's not too big of a deal. We can sort of just slap everything that we need together, but here we can see like pretty much 1 of each building that we need. And now that I have that, this is going to get destroyed. The basic algae is fine for us, but putting the algae 2 to use is going to be much more efficient, and it'll be making water for us a lot more as well. I mean, it'll be making electricity for us a lot more as well. Some other things we'll need is an electrolyzer, some liquefiers, a crusher. And we're making much better progress on the landfill. And once we have that, it'll be a lot easier to expand out. We only have 11 left. If we couldn't never make our own, we'd be stuck on this tiny patch forever, and I'm sure it's doable. But wow, it would take forever. Alright, let's get started. So, I know that I'm going to need some slag production. And I'm sure the long-handed inserters would help quite a lot. And this might be quite a hard thing to do without the near inserter research. But it's looking like quite a few. Nearly 100 science until we can get there. And that is certainly doable, but it's gonna take a while. But getting the design started will do good. We will. We can always edit it down later to be more compact. Wow, these bots are so wonderful to have. Alright, landfills done, and let's set that up. I personally like going for grass as my landfill. It is probably not the best, but it is certainly the prettiest. Right, and we have our algae farm. And having that landfill is going to help a lot, as this space is a little bit small for what I'm trying to do. But I can save some space by just directly getting water into the electrolyzer. This will be algae too. So we'll need a few inserters. This one will be cellulose fibers. Into pellets, and this into bricks. Bricks go into a furnace. And then we need to set up a sort of priority input thing for our charcoal. So we want charcoal, but it's needed to supply this with carbon dioxide before. And actually, oh, never mind. We can make carbon dioxide with our wood research. So putting that onto this belt, we can use our splitter that we just crafted to output the priority to the right. And just by having a little bit of stuff that is guaranteed to be there through the priority splitter, it sends things. Anything that goes through the splitter will go to the right first. And then if the right is full, then the left side can be supplied. This will make our carbon dioxide. So that is one part of this done. Although we do need still to make carbon dioxide to start fueling it. And hopefully that's doable by hand. Maybe not. I might have been a little bit hasty. This. And we are just now running out of iron. Almost completely. Alright, let's switch this back to the first recipe, just so that I can get a little bit more algae. And then once that supplied itself, we can turn it back into the more efficient recipe. And while we do that, we should finish the mineralized water portion. This is where a bit more landfill would come in handy. But we'll make it work. Although I'm sure there's a little bit that's done by now. Unless I forget to put it in a chest. Even just for landfill is going to be very helpful on making sure I have enough space for everything here. And I need a little bit more, even. And this is where things start to slow down quite a lot. We are making so little resources that it requires so much waiting before we can do much. However, hopefully soon, we will have enough wood chips um, to fuel this. Once we get a few more bricks, the furnace will be full, and we can start actually producing some electricity. But this is all for, and hopefully with the more electricity, our things will run faster, and we'll produce a little bit more of our iron. Hopefully just a bit longer. Even this is running ridiculously slow. How about we cut off our water supply until our power is a little bit more stabilized. Alright, whenever all the electrolyzers are gone, everything is just fine. And so that should help speed things up a lot. Alright, and there is charcoal. So now that we have charcoal, that should be more than enough to start up this system. And I just got the spacing a little bit wrong for these, but that's no big deal. Alright, and there we go. Now we're starting our green algae. Let's extend this out a little bit so that we have a place for our power. Alright, now with this landfill, should have more than enough to get our boiler going. That does need even more water, but we should be able to get water over here without needing an extra pump. And the spacing isn't perfect here, but this is just such a rough power plant that it doesn't really matter. We are just trying to get any amount of fuel that we can into these boilers. As it's going to help speed up significantly. Right, and once we have this next boiler down, I think that will be a good place to stop. And it's looking like just a few more landfill until that happens. Right, and there we go. Power plant might be slow, but it's gonna help significantly, I think. Alright, and I think that is a good place for me to stop this episode. Thank you to anyone who is watching, and I'll see you in the next one.